Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Good afternoon, Cos ICT. Woo, sounds good. Let me welcome you to our panel discussion on Better Together, Digital Ecosystem Development. I am Simon, working in international cooperation for the GIZ here in the ITP. This is like the main topic we are interested in. The ITP, with its slogan, Design, Create, Innovate, is really looking into this ecosystem development topic, especially from a Prizren perspective. And I'm coming here with a separate project which is even more related to Cos ICT. And I think there's no better place to talk about digital ecosystem development than Cos ICT, this lovely event we are having here. This project is about establishing the ITP as a digital transformation center. The idea behind that is getting the brightest people of the region here to jointly innovate, work on software development together, bring universities and students, connect them with businesses to help the businesses' problems, make businesses responsible for the IT skill development of students and the education side as well, so make the connection here. We want to have startups, we can grow here and connect to clients, national clients, local clients, international clients as well. So this is the idea behind this Digital Transformation Center. Quite ambitious, but I would say this is a young country in any sense, in every sense. So perfect time to be ambitious, I would say. So I will take the role as a moderator because in the end, I've been living here for 2 months now, so there are people who can tell you much more about the actual existing ecosystems, the challenges and potentials it has in the digital world than I could. So I'm really happy to have great panelists with me coming from various perspectives, or bringing various perspectives to these topics, partners, people who share the same interest in the topics. And I mainly hope we'll get this conversation started, get some inspiration for people, which we can follow up in the next month. Who is on the stage with me? Let me quickly set the scene and already welcome all the panelists to just step on the stage and join me. So we'll have the education and science perspective here from Loom from Digital School, represented this crucial point of education. We'll have Driton just here coming to the stage. I asked you to join because I thought you would very much represent the private sector side. I heard you couldn't represent pretty much any perspective, but I'm really happy to have you here in this discussion as well. We have this support system side, so to help people grow here from Enis from Makerspace, trying to help ideas thrive and turn into reality. And then we have sort of the upper echelon perspective from the Prime Minister's office side, Lulezon here to join me as well. Lulezon, may I start with you to quickly introduce yourself and say, why are you here? Why is the Prime Minister's office motivated to talk about this topic, and how do you see the relation there?
So my name is Jagxhiu, and I'm the advisor to the Prime Minister on information technology. Hello? Is it better now? Is it better?
All right.
Much better. Okay, so once again, I'm Lulezon Jagxhiu. I'm the advisor to the Prime Minister on information technology, and my role in the government is to serve as a coordinator for the digital transformation process. I mean, it's really a pleasure to be part of this panel in ITP to talk about ITP itself, I would say. And as you heard in the morning from the Prime Minister, digitalization is really one of the priorities of our government. And of course, when we talk about digitalization, our initial focus is on digital transformation inside the government, because I think there we have a lot to do. I would say we are very much behind in the areas of e-government and electronic services. And we really see a priority to work on, I would say, establishing sound fundamentals and principles of our new e-government system. Of course, the aim is to increase transparency and accountability, and at the end of the day, to improve the services for our citizens and businesses. The idea is to expand, I would say, this digitalization process to all the sectors of the government, starting from education, which is very important, health, justice system, and then also other sectors within the government. But you know, it's a well-known fact that digital transformation really leads to increased productivity in the economy. But in order to, I would say, have that maximized, then that digitalization has to really happen. That transformation has to happen both in the government itself, but also in the economy. So in that regards, our interest goes beyond, I would say, the court of the government itself. Furthermore, I mean, we all want to say that ICT is one of the sectors with high potential to contribute to our economy. And I will not say words about the percentage, because I already heard the number of what's the contribution of ICT into the economy of Kosovo, and I have another number. So in order to avoid confusion, I will not mention numbers, but I think we can all agree that there is a potential to make this contribution bigger, so that the ICT really contributes more significantly to the economy of our country. And when we talk about that, I think there are a couple of key areas of intervention, and I will try to focus on the areas what government can do. And again, I don't want to repeat too many things, because we had also the minister talking a while ago about what the government is doing, but infrastructure is, of course, important. The good thing is that we have good high internet penetration, but again, that does not, should not keep us satisfied, because there are areas where additional intervention is needed. Currently, there is a project running on the connectivity of schools, a feasibility study, which at the end will show all the gaps we have in terms of internet connectivity to schools, but also the, I would say, the infrastructure, digital infrastructure inside the schools. I think that will be one area where we will need to invest in the years to come. Another aspect, again, which was, I guess, repeated several times during the day today, is the digital skills. We all know we have a shortage of, I would say, skilled IT professionals. There is much more demand than there is a supply of ICT professionals. And of course, we need to do something about it. Of course, it's something we have to do jointly with the private sector. The private sector is already engaged in training programs, but also the government is doing. We mentioned earlier, I mean, the minister mentioned, there are about 3,500 young people being trained in various areas of ICT. The economic recovery package also has this focus on youth employment, investing on training of young people in ICT, and also their employment, so subsidizing salaries in this sector, so that we increase, I mean, at one hand we increase the employment, but on the other hand also we address this shortage of IT skills. I would say in a more medium term, this has to do with a reform of our higher education system. So we have to see what we have to change in our university curricula, what we have to do with our professional education, introducing dual education. So there are things which we have to do, I would say, more thoroughly and in a medium term to really address this issue of shortage of skills. And I think another measure, which I would not say is a long term, I think it's a short term measure, measure, but the results of it will show in the long run, has to do with the digitalization of our whole education system. So starting from the primary schools, secondary school, up to higher education, we need to work on reforming it, and the basis of that reform should be on digitalization. Again, not for the digitalization of, because of digitalization itself, but digitalization as a mean to improve the quality of our education system. This is, I would say, another area. Another important area, I would say, is the infrastructure for innovation, research, entrepreneurship. This is also an area where we as a country have a gap. I mean, we have this problem that universities, as I mentioned earlier, do not produce this skilled professionals that the industry needs. There is always a complaint that the curricula does not reflect the needs of the industry. On the other hand, that also then goes to the research area. I mean, normally the businesses, the industry should look at the education system for research and engage the education system in research in various areas, and vice versa. The ideas which are developed during the education process should end up in innovation and startups on the other hand. But this, I would say, communication is not functioning in our country. So this is another area which I think we together need to work on. And now, if we summarize all these, I think we need an ecosystem. We need a place where we can, put together these pieces of puzzle. The education, the entrepreneurship and business, innovation and research, so that they can work together. And we think that ITP is actually one of those platforms. So that's a key platform for us, where currently the government of Kosovo is investing together with the German government to create that platform. Now, again, there are, investments are being made in the infrastructure part, which is one element. But on the other hand, I think it is important, the content or the meat inside, I would say, the park. And the government is already doing something about that as well. We have a Digital Excellence Center, which is taking its shape. Today we had a new visit there, and we see that most of the things have been completed. So we have there a couple of projects. The Kosovo Research and Education Network, its core is within the Digital Excellence Center. It will provide resources for private and public universities, I would say IT resources, but also access to networks. So Kosovo has become part of GEANT, as connectivity with GEANT, and together with the membership in Horizon 2020, which will happen by the end of this year, there will be an opportunity, I would say, for international cooperation in the research area. So that's, I would say, one important cell. We have there also this 3D printing and scanning lab, which again is a contribution because it can serve as a foundation for cross-sectoral cooperation. So let's say health sector can cooperate with the IT sector and create prototypes, but not only health, it can be any manufacturing sector which can utilize the facilities there for prototyping and for research. 5G is a big thing, we all know, and the idea is to use ITP, to use the Digital Excellence Center to pilot 5G in Kosovo. So these are some of the things which the government is doing, and we've talked with Simon. There is a plan from the GIZ to establish the Digital Transformation Center, which again feeds into all of the components which we mentioned, both education, startups, entrepreneurship, but also one very important area which has to do with digital transformation of businesses outside of the ICT sector. Because as it was mentioned earlier today, we sometimes pay a lot of attention on digital transformation of the sector itself, but in order to really get this maximum productivity, I would say gains, we need to really think about the digital transformation of other sectors as well. And we've seen globally how important is that. I mean, businesses today are completely changing their business strategies based on the changes in technology. And that's what the digital transformation is about. And again, there are a lot of opportunities. I think we are seeing some cells being built. It will require a lot of more effort from the government, from the private sector, because the government does not have intention and it cannot, build the ITP together with, I would say, with German government and GIZ itself. It will work only if together. I think the title is great. It's better together, or the only way is together. I would say in case of ITP. So let's say that we are committed from the government side. We really want to work together, both with the German government, with GIZ, but very importantly with the private sector, to make this story a success story. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for, I guess, for setting, yes, please. I guess you beautifully set the scene and touched like all the varieties of topic you could possibly have in this conversation, from IT infrastructure over the education, digitalization of education system, but also the basic education of IT skills to private sector involvement, and so basically all you can think of, and even the digitalization of the private sector. So hearing all that, by the way, the infrastructure, Kosovo Research and Education Network, data centers, the 3D printers we talked about, it's like 100 meters from here in this big red building. All this was talked about. So it's, if you have any chance to check it out at some point, it's quite impressive actually. Jumping now from this wide range of topics, looking especially in the one you mentioned, private sector relation to the education side, how you can bring that together. How is that a more, like in the private sector, you're always concerned there's a competition, which may speak against this better together vision, because competition is against one another. Looking into private sector's side, Driton, maybe introduce yourself a little bit, what you are doing besides your involvement in Cactus, but also in your involvement in Cactus. I think Cactus decided to invest in skill development as well, but mainly by themselves. Maybe talk about this decision and what could also be beneficial to establish cooperations beyond your own company, but with existing universities, existing IT skills development systems.
Thank you very much.
Again, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, Simon, for the invitation to be part of this panel. I think I would start with saying that we've never been better. From some sort of a positive note, going back through the years of development of the ICT sector, wearing lots of hats during that part of the history, I think that this country, the opportunities that youth have, businesses have, has never been better than today. And I can say that clearly and openly and sincerely, going back to the first company established in 1992, when there were only 2 ICT, actually not even service providers, but box moving companies in this country. And going back to 94, when we had the first internet connection, which was actually a dial-up connection to something that was text-based, and trying to find within the text the meaning of the future of that internet. So not to go back to that history, again, I'm saying that we've never been better. Is it enough? We are far from enough, far from excellence, far from where we should be. And this is where I see an opportunity for all of us, the government, academia, private businesses, service providers, to improve their offering and try, as you said, to collaborate and work together. Now, when someone says ecosystem, I understand an ecosystem as part of many different, let's say, connections and chains that are interconnected and work with each other, collaborate with each other, serve one another, and sort of build and develop that ecosystem. We have some sort of a miscommunication, unfortunately, currently in place. Most probably because we are small, partially, as geography. Most probably because we are facing some issues with building the nation, building the state, and some of the issues are within ourselves, within the system, some of them are external. But I think we also miss some sort of cohesion, which is very important. And I will mention a couple of issues that make this happen. In the reasons that you mentioned why we built an education arm to existing business, Cactus was established in 2003. All of us who were part of Cactus came out from different industries, ISPs, box moving, education, etc. We actually created a service company, a service provider, which was supposed to cater the needs of the private industry and government, which was in its building phase. But what we lacked mostly was that part of the ecosystem, so the clientele. We had to work on educating clientele, first of all, to understand what we are offering in order to sell the service and the product. We lacked finance, access to finance, as a startup, as an ICT company, as a company that had no collateral whatsoever, no kind of ownership on the goods or products and services that could leverage and in discussion with the banks or whatever financial instruments which were not existing and still do not exist in this country. We lack the inducive government support that would bring our innovation to life and make us better, faster, bigger, working with local market but also expanding to external. And then we lacked human skills, human capacity. Trying to find that capacity within the existing system made us aware that it's not existing. There were universities. At that point of time, not many private colleges were there. We had the public university with a couple of faculties that produced a number of students. But unfortunately, the know-how of that output was qualitative only when particular individuals invested in themselves in order to upgrade their skills. So what we had to do was to take that basement fundamental knowledge and upgrade it to something else. And that costs money, time. You have to engage professionals working with students or graduates even. And that is how the story of Cactus Education started. We mainly worked with big vendors, industry-recognized professional trainings and certifications, and that ended in 2014 with an idea of creating a 2-year professional education facility, vocational, starting with 2 majors, one in system engineering, as we call it, and network administrators and system engineers, and one in web and mobile developers, and trying to mix somehow the dual system of engaging students into education and into practical skills from the very beginning. Now, I'm very glad that Prime Minister's advisor is today here, and he's laying out a number of different initiatives that are extremely important for the build-up of that ecosystem. What needs to happen is that we need some sort of a coherent action between different players. As I said, many of the constraints that we had 15 years, almost 20 years ago, are still there. So we lack access to finance for our existing companies, for our startup students, companies that are maybe not anymore in the incubation phase, in the seed financing phase. We lack the legal framework even for that. So you cannot do it even, you can do it legally, but there is no legal framework for venture capital, for alternative financing mechanism. We need to upgrade a lot what we have in the current education system. Some of it can be done by the government, some of it can be done by the private sector itself with the interventions that we are having, but also, again, coherently work together in providing the right education for the right technologies and for the right future of what is happening. What we need as well is what we are seeing here in ITP Park, and hopefully we will see in the near future in other places across Kosovo. And these are labs. Labs where young people, students, established companies can come, try, fail, have success, educate themselves, work with the others, collaborate, build up solutions, and work together. As I said, we are a small country, and our companies are small. So going to a company like Allianz in Germany and offering them software testing services, which I did some 5 years ago, ended up with the question, well, with an answer, sorry. We have 40,000 testers in India, so what can you offer? We cannot offer 40,000 testers, engineers, nor something else in that sense. So what we need to focus and concentrate is not selling skills and not selling human flesh and body, but developing products and solutions that can become big and then penetrate the markets like Germany and the rest. We can do that. We are doing it. There are companies in this small country that have made it, that are growing big. They have created products and solutions. This is where we have to invest our resources, focus our education, get the money and use that money to push further, and government open the door and let them flourish.
Great, thank you. Yes, again, please. I like it, it's a little more lively than before. Great, thank you. May you allow me a follow-up question before we jump to Enis and Lum? Just quickly, so, I mean, it's really, really great. You saw there's a lack of capabilities of a specific sort, in this case, system engineers, for example, and you said, okay, we'll develop them ourselves because we see the need, so we jump in and take responsibility. So what we talked about, business, private sector side takes responsibility for the IT skills development. Would you see, or how could you define options in an optimal world, an optimal setting, how you would work together with, let's say, formal education to go in such a direction to have system engineering as a permanent subject on a university? I mean, I'm quite sure there will always be this need for add-on trainings coming from small NGOs or companies, because it's so dynamic, then formal education cannot always immediately follow. But for many cases, I understand there's also a lack on things which could be there and could be established over a longer time and integrated in regular curricula. Do you see a potential relation how you could closer work together with also universities and school in this sense?
Well, I can give you a couple of challenges that we are seeing in the system already now, which, if improved, would make lives better in terms of how this ecosystem of education now would be developed. So if we look to what the others do, especially the leaders in vocational education training, so Israel, Australia, Switzerland, Germany, some of the players, what they do is that, first of all, there is no stigma behind the vocational education. So it is, on the contrary, it is preferred, it is pushed, it is sort of promoted within the community and within the businesses, because these are the guys who do the work, actually. That is the first thing. The second thing is, whoever completes his education in vocational education can transfer automatically its credits to higher education. And there are two streams in higher education, actually. You have professional education, vocational, that can be level 6, level 7 even, in that sense. But you can also transfer and switch to the regular academic pathway, which is bachelor, master's, and PhD. This is unfortunately not happening in this country at this moment. There are some initiatives, and hopefully by next year, maybe we will see some sort of a regulation in that field set by the government as well. But we don't see that, first of all. And government itself also needs to acknowledge and to recognize in its own job requirements and postings that professionals from vocational education can apply for a government-paid job and work in government service. The second thing is, we've tried this with number of donors. Actually, Swiss Development Corporation tried with establishing industrial boards within academia, which means that the industrial boards were supposed to give guidance on where the future lies, what should be and should we work on, what are the future industries, future jobs, future workers that we need to build in this country in order to become and remain competitive in the years to come. And I believe that the issue came up because of some sort of a political and centralized system of decision-making in the past that didn't make that happen. Those silos within the education system need to be broken. They need to be broken in order for new people to come in. And by the way, it is very interesting. We have so many people, so many lecturers out of Kosovo, from Kosovo, who lecture in foreign institutions. Our diaspora, who does not see our country and our institution as a cash cow, you know, but rather they want to invest their time and space and money even, and come bring that know-how and transfer technology and knowledge to this country. That has not happened so far. And the third thing is, again, maybe government intervention with the helps of donors and institutional support of international organizations. We need to identify a couple of keywords. Is it cybersecurity? Is it data analytics? Is it AI, etc., etc.? We have to build up know-how in those fields. So create some maybe master's programs or PhD programs, invest in people in order to make those resources be here and educate the others and create that capacity. One other way of doing it, and that was an initial idea with ITP Park 5 years ago, was to bring a center of gravity here. And the center of gravity could be a company from anywhere in Germany, At that point of time, I know that the discussions were about bringing Siemens or BASF or Krupp or Porsche Group or whoever here, and then build up some sort of a center of gravity and education, R&D, technical support, maintenance, vocational education, university, etc., on top of that. And this is how things work abroad. This is how things work in Germany. In 2000, I was in Karlskrona in Sweden, in Ericsson innovation, whatever, facility. This is how they built the whole ecosystem. So you have a company, a corporate setting, which is there, and then you bring students, you bring finance, venture capital, you bring companies, and you build solutions and products for that company. And you build a call center and a managed services center and a mobile 2000, mobile apps developers. So it's kind of a, again, I say gravity center, you know, for a certain big player that can cater all of us, this small country here.
All right. Looking from the educational perspective, where would you, see, you briefly talk about what you're doing with digital school. It's not part of the formal education with university and regular primary and secondary schools. Would you see yourself as a competitor to that, or would you see, basis for collaboration, complementarity in this sense? And how would you see your connection to the private sector side, or an ideal connection to the private sector side?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for covering all of these things that we just heard about. I mean, everything that we heard until now was something that's really important for all of us to know. Before answering the question, I would like to talk a little bit about digital school and what we do. So basically, digital school is a school that teaches kids of ages 8 to 18 years old computer programming skills. And what we do is we develop all the time updating curricular programs in order to adapt everything that the fast-growing technological developments, something that we need always to stay in. We always need to be updated and not to simply use a curriculum that have been developed, like, let's say, a couple of years ago. And apart from that, the whole program that we are developing, so basically the curriculum, the methodologies, the learning management systems, the customer relation management systems are being exported to other partnering companies that we are working with in not only in Kosovo but also in other countries in the world right now. So basically, this is a Kosovo-founded company which is focused in education, and this is a really great example about what you just mentioned earlier, Driton, about the potential that we have on creating something here and using the international market, about exporting it, and in this way to develop economically but also academically later on. So as digital school right now, we are operating in more than 50 locations around the world, namely in countries. First it started in Kosovo, then it continued in Balkans, in North Macedonia, then afterwards we continued in Slovenia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And during the last 2 years, we were collaborating with another company which is called Berlitz School of Languages, which has more than 500 locations around the world, which is almost 200 years old company. And together with them, we are offering all our program that is being developed here in Kosovo in order to teach kids programming around the world. And right now, we are operating in Germany in more than 20 different locations, in Morocco, in Hong Kong, in United States, and in Mexico as well. And soon we are working into creating these programs in order to use them and expand to every location where our partner Berlitz is operating. So to talk about all of these things, we really need to see a lot of resources that we have, but at the same time as well, not only the resources, but also the opportunities and also the risks that we might have as a country. So we talked earlier about the human resources. This is, we all know, and every country in the world right now knows that technology and the ICT is a very important sector that we need to work on. We need to improve and add it on the formal education. And but what is the problem? What is the main issue? Because this hasn't started yet, not even in Germany, not even in the United States. It started it, but it got stuck. They didn't manage to continue with it. I mean, they are like some of the strongest countries in Europe financially and basically economically. And what is the issue that they have? So the main issue that they have is, and that we have as well, is the human resource. So the human capacities that were mentioned also earlier by Driton are the main issues that we need to be focused on, and we need to use in this time. We as Kosovo, we know that we have like the best resource that we have as a country is the human resource, right? We have more than 50% of the whole population younger than 30 years old, which is something that is completely different from most of the countries around Europe. Like, it's completely the opposite. And we definitely need to use this chance because this is not gonna last forever. And we know, and we have seen also statistically that countries also in the Balkans, like Kosovo, Albania, or any other country around Kosovo, is getting older. We know that families right now are mainly three or four, maximum they have like 2 or 3 kids, which means that in a near future we will not be having the same young population. So if we don't catch the train right now, and we do have the time, and there is a train passing by, and we need to really catch the train to add the formal education in every school that we have right now. We at Digital School, we are a private institution, and we offer education to students who come and of course pay, and we do offer time programs for students, let's say some sort of scholarships, but this is not enough to allow every kid in Kosovo to learn computer programming. And so we mentioned earlier the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is really something that we need, but it's not something, for example, when we talk about labs, computers and all of that, computer programming and computer logic can be taught also without having a computer. So it can be taught by simply learning algorithmic thinking. It can be taught by simply letting the students know how to think in a way. And so afterwards, of course, they will need to execute those examples and those lessons that they have been taught about whether how an algorithm works or whatever it may be. They need to execute them in a lab, in a computer, but it can be done also without having a huge investments in digital labs. It could work, for example, if in a school there is one lab, it doesn't have to be like every class to have a computer, which in this way it decreases the financial investment that we can or we need to invest in this case to implement this plan. And afterwards, when we talked, we were very honored during the previous week to be visited by the Minister of Economy, Minister Rizvanoli, where we discussed in detail a lot of things, and this is also a plan that we discussed together and which was highly supported during our brainstorming conversation also by the government, which basically the plan is to simply, since the human resource is something that we lack, we can easily implement this by using the students as teachers. So we know that Right now, one of the main issues that we have here in Kosovo is, of course, unemployment, right? And by doing this, by going up front as a government and telling to the youngsters that if you study in the ICT field and if you manage, like, after the first year to simply, let's say it could be like something like students who have a grade point average like higher than 8.0, they can follow a training program that in this way, with this training program, they can, which could be a pedagogical program, they can be preparing themselves to teach students in primary schools, for example. And this could help. In the same way, this could incentivize youngsters to study these fields because they know that after only 1 year of studies, they can be able to find jobs. And they can be able to, with these jobs, to also finance their studies. But of course, there's another risk that happens here, that after these students start, for example, to teach younger students, let's say primary school students, they can be teaching them for like 3 or 4 years until they finish their studies. Because the risk, what happens here, that most of the people who study computer sciences or any other ICT field department that they decide to study, as soon as they finish their studies, they can easily find better paid jobs, and they leave the educational sector. They go and work as developers. And then again, the schools come to the problem of not having enough teachers. So what we can do in this case, as soon as they finish their studies, we can get the first year students again, and they can continue teaching. And this could be a cycle that can continue all over again and again, and that could highly help the whole society. And it does require investment. For example, one of the main investment, of course, it would be that we would need to pay all of these instructors, which basically would be students. But at the same time, this is an investment. This is a capital that is being added in Kosovo, and all the money that is being spent there is going to be spent in Kosovo. It's not that we are just expanding it and then we're not going to have anything in return. So that's something that could be, it is possible, and I repeat it again, we really need to catch the train right now and to allow every little kid to understand how computers work, because they are exposed to it all the time, every day, and very few of them know how it actually works. And of course, the reforms in education system does not include only the tech part of the education. It does include also all the other things. For example, let's say...
Blum, I have to cut you a little bit short. We are getting short in time.
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to say, for example, due to the technological development, we know that we do need also a lot of things to add in the curriculum when it comes to critical thinking, where we are exposed to a lot of fake news, and students right now, they don't even learn at schools how to protect themselves in that direction. So when it comes to your question regarding the collaboration with the private sector, this is something that we are all the time working on, and this is a vision that we have as a school, where right now our sister company, or like one of our main partners, is Star Labs, where all our students who basically finish the studies, they go to Star Labs, they become part of an internship, and then afterwards they start their employments. And we have students who already started to work as computer developers by the age of 16. And it's not only one, we have also a lot of others who finish this internship, and this is basically our vision. We don't want just to teach them and then just leave them do whatever they do in the market. We want to create this connection, and right now we have this collaboration with Star Labs, but we are open to collaborate with any other company. And same as we have discussed, Simon, also during our previous meetings regarding of using this ecosystem that we can create together and use the ITP Park as a potential to bring all the companies together and together to use all our educational forms and methodologies and implement them together with the private sector. And that's something that's very doable, and we as a company, we are very open to it. So honestly, education, as we mentioned earlier, is the most powerful weapon to change the world. And in this case, we cannot change the world without acting locally. So we need to act locally to change the things in Kosovo, and at the same time have the impact globally as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Enis, catching the train, we just heard you're trying to support people catching the train. We heard about entrepreneurship from both Driton and Lulezon, some challenges from the one side, some commitment from the government to look in this field. What are you already doing? You're one of the first movers here in the park with Makerspace. What is Makerspace about, and what is your thoughts on the topics we heard in this relation?
Yeah, thanks. To keep it short and coherent with what other speakers said here, is that at Makerspace we basically act in Prizren for like almost 4 years now, and our activity is almost all moved into ITP. Okay, we are basically focused in 3 components: the education side, or the bridging of the companies with the university graduates and students. So basically we catch up what Shkolla Digitale and other private sector schools are doing by training people and pupils and students from 8 to 18. We catch up with them 18 and on, so we prepare them to catch and to be part of the market, rather by being employed somewhere or generating their own businesses. On the other side, another component of us is the entrepreneurship component, or what we call the startup incubation program, but we will be launching soon here. The program will be run, or let's say co-run, by ITP and the Digital Transformation Center itself. So basically we keep connecting different parties, the university community, the companies around, and also other actors, in this case the ITP itself, in order to generate more workplaces and more businesses in ITP. We gravitate and work in Prizren. What is in our perspective of work actually is to bridge and communicate and to gravitate new investments inside ITP. We designate and always update the programs of the trainings with the labor market needs, as well as offer few more resources, open programs and activities in our co-working space and in Prizren in general. Talking about what the previous speaker said, especially Driton, as an expert of this field, I'd like to say that the contribution-wise, the demand is high for having ideas, financial improvements, and also complying some of or updating some of the law statements, especially about investments and so on. But just in case, we try to keep ourselves flexible so that we don't stop working, but we always agree that generating valuable products and exporting them is the key to have a success in Kosovo. And in the Kosovo market, for sure, diversification of the market is something that we also work in. We don't want to keep the focus on helping a single company grow. For sure, in Kosovo, we cannot have a big company of, let's say, 1,000 employees because it gravitates and takes all the human resources that are ready to work. But instead of that, we can have small companies with great ideas, great products, and we can help them grow and also be placed into the European market and more, furthermore. So basically, our focus in ITP will be helping the community of Prizren and the local area to digitize and to move on, including the businesses around, because everything what's done right now by us is to comply with the business needs and also to comply with the students' needs and graduates' needs in terms of employing them and moving them as a valuable part of the market itself. I just wanted to keep it short. There's a lot of things to say, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much also for keeping it short. I would love, yes, please, some love for the startups. I would actually like to continue with this conversation for 1 or 2 more hours, but I think we will be kicked off the stage soon. Let me quickly grab 1 or 2 ideas from the panelists. I heard in industrial board, it never happened to establish that. If you look into the idea of having an industrial board for the IT skill development, would you be interested in being part of that and like contributing your time in such a board?
Absolutely. I think the sector itself is very much interested in not only giving the feedback, but working together with the providers. The issues that we have currently, as I said, are related to designing the right programs for the right skills. And also, there is no unemployed IT person in this country, I must say. I don't know if there is such a thing. The issue is how much of that IT skills that person has is actually workable properly and exportable, maybe even more importantly. So these are the things that we need to focus, and I don't think that there is anyone who is not willing to collaborate and work together with the industry and the sector in providing this.
And from you, both of you developing trainings as well, would you be interested to pick up ideas from such an industrial board from the private sector? So also like committing to, okay, if they have ideas, we try to, and we see what is integrated in the formal education and maybe pick up stuff from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe, as Driton mentioned, everyone is open to make this change and to basically work more together. We're all interested in participating in different initiatives, but I believe that we could really create a whole project together, and all the plans that I already mentioned earlier, they cannot be done alone. So we should definitely work all of us together and in order to implement that.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
You want to add, or you're?
Yeah, basically, we are interested. We are also acting and executing, so thank you very much. We'll be here. By the way, I use this opportunity to say that we keep pushing and doing some activities by next week's in ITP, so please follow up ITP, and then let's be in touch for whatever comes next. Thank you very much.
Maybe giving the closing words to Lulezon also. Maybe in the 2 ideas I grabbed, industrial board for IT skills, you know, ideas coming, or the private sector being integrated in the curricular development and seeing what are the skills needed actually on the market, and the ideas of, you know, having digital skill development in school in the way Loom described. Is that something you could, I mean, not now we do it, but is that something you would say, yeah, let's look into this direction from a governmental side?
So basically, I fully agree. The industrial boards are one of the ways to really make this link, I would say, between academia and businesses. But again, I touched many of the points when I initially spoke. Because of the short time, I will go back to ITP part. I think it is important that we work together on promoting ITP, making it function. I think we have quite a huge area here. There is a potential to test a lot of ideas, and yeah, from our side, I mean, we are really trying, even I would say on a micro level. Sometimes whenever we get a company interested to invest in Kosovo, we always say, okay, ITP is one of the options, please have a look at that. So again, we should look at the big picture. I think there is a great opportunity to create that ecosystem here in ITP, and we are willing to work together on that.
Great. Thank you very much.